So I truly have the honor and the privilege of introducing a dear friend of mine. He's a really important partner to the Case Foundation and to National Geographic, Derrick Feldmann, who is the founder of MCON and the Millennial Impact Report, and president of Achieve. He's also author of a book called Social Movements for Good, which some of you probably got when you checked in. But you know, when I think about Derrick, he was the one who first inspired us to think about what if we could take all this work, we'd been doing some research and putting out papers about this generation, and we could clearly see that something different was going on, and it was very exciting. And Derrick said, I have a vision. What if we could bring them together in a conference on an annual basis and have them be a part of this work with us? So that's why you're here, because of this remarkable guy. And at this time, I'd like to welcome him to the stage. Derrick Feldmann.
Thank you. Thank you, Derrick. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome. How are we? All right, so we've got 2.5 days all together that we're going to be spending some time talking about how we get people to do more for good. Now, we brought together some really great people from all different sectors to help us do that. And I have to tell you that, as Jean had mentioned and did the introduction to me, I cannot thank them enough. And let's give the Case Foundation a round of applause for all their support. When we came to them with this idea of taking a risk, to say, let's try and figure out how we understand this generation, they were the first ones there. So I really do appreciate it. Of course, an event like this also happens with some incredible partners, American Express. And here at the place, you've got 3 days at National Geographic. Not too bad, right? All right, and for some of you, National Geographic has been very supportive of MCON and our MCON community and will be over the course of the next 3 days. They'll even offer some unique things in your bags. You need to check out maybe if you got a winning ticket to head into the museum. And don't worry for those who are online watching us, which you should know we have about 20,000 at some point over the course of the day or so that will be joining us. You can all use a little code MCON16 to get $5 off admission to the museum. So head in there. The Greeks is pretty cool for sure. So when we think about our sponsors, I also have to remember that we're in D.C., right? We got attention of the White House, as you can see here, of course. And I think that as we go through the day and talk about politics and everything else that's happening, I think it's wonderful that we're in a space today, not only geography, but also in this physical space, where we can have a discussion about what we want the future to be. And that's really the point of our half day together. And I was excited that the White House was offered to send a letter of encouragement for all of the incredible work that you do. Now, let's talk about how today and the next 3 days are going to work. How many of you have attended MCON online before? All right. How about in person? A few of you. Well, we're in a new city. We were in Chicago last year, and for several other years before that, too. And so we came to D.C. It was only fitting, right, that we would come here given this year and what's occurring. So over the course of the next 3 days, you're going to have different experiences. We're going to hear from panelists in different content theme areas. And of course, you're going to get a chance to interact with them both online and in person. Now, remember, you can be a part of the discussion. For those online and here in the audience, you can head to this, or right below the viewer for those that are viewing us, head to mcon.socialqna.com, and that's where you can enter in your questions. The moderators that are going to be on stage will have an iPad. That's what I brought out. And we will take the top voted questions and ask them. And no, there is not a filter. So we'll be as transparent as possible as you see everybody else. So make sure that you vote for the best questions on there. And online audience, this is your chance to as well. Now, you have to remember that you need to share as much as you can with the hashtag MCON. Can everybody stand up for just a second? Let's get up, stretch out a little bit. All right. Did you know that today is National Selfie Day? Who knew? All right, turn around. Let's do a selfie. Come on. Real quick. Hashtag MCON. Feel free to take the stage. On the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right, perfect. I had to do it. We also had to get you up so that you could see who else is here, see if you had any friends. For those of you who are online, of course, make sure that you could do that too. Feel free to share throughout the next 3 days using hashtag MCON, of course. You'll also be able to you can also see what everybody else is talking about, look at the different feeds. Head to the Tumblr room at tumblr.mconideas.com. Now, here's something that's really important. As Jean mentioned, they've been supporters of the Millennial Impact Project since 2009. And every year at this event, we release research. Yes, there is some things that happened this morning you may not be aware of, unless you're on the list, and guess what? We shared it with you there. But we shared this morning some Millennial Impact research. This year, we're talking about how causes and politics and what's going to happen all with this generation. Let me give you some insight as to what we announced. We have done research starting in early spring. We've been doing different waves of millennials that we've been looking at to see how politics is affecting their cause engagement. And at the end of this year, right after the election, we're going to do even more. We're going to do some interviews with all of the individuals to validate some of our data. Why do we need to do this? This is an important year. We need to understand whether or not politics can change the way that we behave for doing good. And if you want to follow along in that, I'll tell you how to in just a minute. Couple key trends that we noticed from the individuals that were part of our first waves. Here's a couple things worth watching, at least that we are. First and foremost in our study so far, millennials were most interested in education, healthcare, and the economy. And don't worry, we actually even tracked it by the different types of pieces of areas of interest and even by the candidates themselves. You're probably wondering why 2 are up there or maybe why even 3. We started this in early spring and we'll continue to monitor it until the end after the election. Trend 2, millennials actually identified in our population that we were with a little bit more conservative than typical. If you actually look here, you'll see right now the data will show that we have a little bit more on the conservative than the neutral side. This is something we're going to watch and determine whether or not this actually plays out as we get closer and closer to the election. The next one, trend 3, is that some millennials obviously feel that they can believe that they're activists. And when we look at it, we all believe that we can make an impact in some way, shape, or form. This is crucial. This is why we do MCON. Every year we do this event because I will tell you this, it is popular and sexy to do good. We have companies, we've got a lot of people that want to do this, but in reality, we may just have some people sitting on the sidelines. That's all of our jobs. It's everybody online watching too as well. All of the people that you are going to meet on this stage are working as hard as they can to try and inspire people to do more for good in some way, shape, or form. The trend 5 that we noticed is that the majority of millennials had little or no trust in the government to do what is right. And as you can see there, how it even broke down, yes, in comparison to other trust areas. You could take a look at the report and find out more. 6, now here's the most interesting one, is that we had a lot of people signing some petitions, but when it came to actually getting involved in causes, it was a little bit lower than that. That's why we need all of us, right? It's one thing to say you stand up. It's another thing to take the first step. And that's exactly what we need to do. The next one is even around gender. We noticed some interesting things around men and women when it comes to even their cause engagement in politics. You're like, Derrick, slow down. You're going too fast. Don't worry, we've got the full report. You can download it. 7 here, millennial respondents had posted something on social media related to the issues they care about. So we see this heightened activity, of course, and even when we look at the politics and how it laid out with our individuals, we saw some support, obviously, for Clinton and Trump increasing with Sanders decreasing, and I think when you look at it over time, it's not surprising given where we are with the election. And now, lastly, this is probably the bigger one we need to track, whether or not all of us are going to show up to actually do this, right? So something that we started to notice is a little bit of a dip towards the end. This is something we'll track too continually as we go through the research. So what else do we have to do with this? As I mentioned, most of the researchers out there, the research projects, don't let their audience in. You usually get to hear about it later, right? Well, we're going to let you in throughout this process. Some of this may not pan out in the end, and some of it might. And we're just as inquisitive as you are to find out which actually do. So our next phase is we're going to do 2 more waves of research. We're going to follow with some interviews and different pieces to validate it. And of course, we're going to do some post-election things to find out who voted and how. That's our goal too as well. And we'll report all of that back to you right after the election. You can download the full report at themillennialimpact.com. Sound good? All right, now, of course, I went through it in about 8 minutes, they told me. Now, you can read the whole report there and find all the other trends reports over the course of the next year. So thanks again to the Case Foundation for their support. Let's give them a round of applause for that.